That's what you do with the summer.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Monkeygate Expo. My name is Vina Merritt, and we are Stand Up Bainbridge, GA. We're a group of neighbors from various parts of Decatur County, and even though our homes are not so close together, we realize that what affects one of us could affect all of us. After learning about this project, we came together and we were determined to educate ourselves and others, both near and far, and to work every day to try to put a stop to this. These are the cages that the monkeys will be transported in if we don't put a stop to this. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight and for showing interest in learning more about what's happening in our community. Without further ado, I first would like to introduce Ms. Regina for a prayer.
Let's bow our heads in prayer. Dear most gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we come before you humbly, asking you, Lord, to please forgive us of our sins. Lord, I pray that as we go into this meeting, that we will have an open mind and we will learn and educate each other. God, I pray that you just pour out your blessing in our community. Lord, to let us always love each other and respect each other. Lord, let us always come before you first and most to ask you to lead us and guide us. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight and showing interest in learning more about what's going on. And now I would like to welcome our moderator, Ms. Dana Martin.
Glad to see such a nice group of people here tonight. We have a lot of great speakers. First of all, we're going to have our speakers, and then at the end, we'll have a question and answer for you all. So our first speaker tonight is going to be Dr. Gordon Miller, and he's accompanied by Regina Jones, who has a master's in nursing.
Good evening. I'm concerned, my concern is the risk of infectious diseases for monkeys in the community. I made a visit to Penny and Johnny Reynolds in their dining room. Can you show that slide? There's a slide up. They are looking out from their dining room across their driveway to those trees in the background. That's the location of the proposed monkey farm. And they describe mosquitoes in their yards. And there are 100 such homes within the vicinity. In medicine, we use what information we have along with reason to prevent health hazards. 30,000 monkeys within an urban vicinity would be a risk to the health of citizens. Monkeys are more risk for transmitting infectious diseases than other animals because they are primates, which are similar biologically to humans. Monkeys can carry diseases including herpes, B, encephalitis, that's infection of the brain, tuberculosis, malaria, yellow fever, dengue, Zika, amoebiasis, hepatitis, and respiratory diseases. These diseases are difficult to screen for and can be latent. There have been cases of malaria reported in Texas, even in New York. Around 1900, there was yellow fever in the area. Zika is a disease that causes microcephaly in newborns. And dengue is the one that makes you feel like your bones are breaking. Herpes B virus has infected 50 people with 21 deaths in the last 3 decades. And survivors have neurologic residual. And survivors require lifelong antiviral medication. 90% of monkeys carry herpes B virus, but in monkeys, it's asymptomatic. But in humans, it's lethal. In 1979, a young woman named Virginia Griffin, a young graduate student from Kingsport, Tennessee, where my wife lives, where my sister lives, died of herpes B brain infection after a monkey spat in her eyes at the Emory Research Center. Those coming and going within a monkey farm are the workers. Mosquitoes, flies, gnats, and rats. And sewage can contaminate the river and water supply. I speak for distressed citizens to ask the city and county officials, our legal councils and courts, to please stop a monkey farm from being built here in Bainbridge. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Miller, for that. And now we're going to hear from Jan Jones, who is a local resident and also a farmer.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
For those of you that were at last year's town hall, this will kind of be like a remix, but it'll basically just be a continuation of what I said that night. My name is Jan Jones. I farm with my dad in Climax. Together we raise commercial beef cattle and grow field corn, peanuts, and cotton. Safer Human Medicine's proposed monkey breeding facility is concerning for many reasons: environmental, financial, and moral, to name a few. But one concern that has frustrated me from the first time news of this project broke is how Safer Human Medicine and some of our local leaders have chosen to soften the image and public perception of animal breeding for the medical research industry. The phrase monkey farm and comparisons to cattle and chicken farms remove the stigmas associated with this industry and ask us, the public, not to look beneath the thin surface layer of what is and is not a farm. Make no mistake, Safer Human Medicine is a cog in the multifaceted pharmaceutical machine. To say that it is a farm is untrue and an insult to the farmers and ranchers who have worked to instill confidence in the American food supply chain and who have contributed millions of dollars to protect our industry through legislation and agriculture programs. There's already rules and ordinances in place to protect Bainbridge and its residents from exactly the type of operation Safer Human Medicine wants to build. One such ordinance that I found particularly interesting was Bainbridge Zoning Ordinance Article 8, Section 8.3.6, titled Keeping of Livestock. To summarize it, the ordinance limits livestock grounds to 5 acres and mandates that no more than 2 animals be kept per acre of land. It's basically to prohibit backyard chickens, to keep that in check. It goes on to state, due to the potential negative impacts on surrounding residential areas, the commercial keeping or raising of fowl to the operation of a feedlot is expressly prohibited. What interests me most about this as a farmer is how it expressly prohibits commercial for-profit operations in feedlots, which is honestly nothing new to those of us who have managed any kind of livestock operation. Of course, we can't have feedlots or stockyards or chicken houses within the city limits. They're smelly, noisy, and a general nuisance to the neighbors. And perhaps most importantly, any livestock operation within the city limits would rely on the city sewage system to maintain the animals and dispose of their waste. Every single cattle farm, dairy, hog farm, and chicken house is located outside of Bainbridge city limits for good reason. And those operations owners bear the cost of providing the utilities needed to care for their livestock and manage the waste their livestock produce. I can't speak to the specifics of Bainbridge's sewage capacity and if it is sufficient to handle Safer Human Medicine's operations or not, but proper sewage treatment of livestock waste is crucial, especially if that waste is ultimately going into the Flint River and our water supply. So if the city has already decided it doesn't want a commercial livestock operation within its limits, why did our county and city leaders allow a company like Safer Human Medicine to work their way into an agreement that has brought us all here tonight? I think part of that answer can be found in the obvious disconnect between what some county and city officials think they know about raising livestock and what the truth of raising livestock actually is. Last year, almost to the day, the Post Searchlight reported on an invitation-only question and answer session between SHM, city officials, and a few concerned citizens. In that report, an anonymous city official stated, "We've been raising healthy animals in Decatur County since 1900. I completely agree with whoever said that. Yes, we, the farmers in Decatur County, have been raising healthy animals since 1900. Who hasn't been raising healthy animals since 1900? The very company Safer Human Medicine's management team previously worked for. No farmer would want to liken their livestock operation to an operation as notorious as Envigo's Beagle facility in Virginia, or as criminal as Charles River Laboratories' illegal importation of non-human primates. We as farmers work so hard to educate our consumers about where and how their food is grown and or raised. Most of the time we focus on urban consumers, but clearly we need to educate the citizens of our own community because our livestock operations bear little resemblance to the primate facilities that have made headlines as recently as 2022 and 2023, and 2024. Safer Human Medicine is in its infancy as a company, but its management has deep established roots which are steeped in abuse, animal cruelty, USDA violations, and Department of Justice investigations. Their method of raising animals has little resemblance to our methods, and we need to make sure our county and city leaders are aware of that fact. One question these comparisons to real farming and livestock operations raise is, why would Safer Human Medicine want to align themselves as a farm? One answer might be, if SHM's proposed operation does somehow fall under the agricultural umbrella, it would stand to reason that they would be able to employ migrant labor using an H-2A visa, which is a temporary work visa specifically used to fill ag jobs. Farms, like most labor-intensive industries, have struggled to maintain a reliable, knowledgeable workforce for several years now. If Safer Human Medicine should find that it's more difficult than expected to fill the supposed 250-ish jobs their facility plans to require, it would stand to reason they would turn to the same resource many farm operations have turned to and rely on migrant labor to fill the void. Another answer might also be that an industry like Safer Human Medicine knows that American farmers and ranchers have spent decade after decade and countless dollars making sure that our reputation is a positive one. American agriculture is a vast and varied industry, and each and every facet of our industry has committed countless hours and millions of dollars to making sure that we're the best farmers and ranchers we can be, and our consumers know that our products are safely grown and humanely raised. Of course, an industry as problematic as Safer Human Medicines would want to cash in on our dedication to maintaining our positive reputation. But to allow such a comparison would undermine all of the progress we've made in our industry and could threaten the confidence our consumers have in our products. At our best, farmers and ranchers are stewards of the land. Every decision we make on our operations impacts the soil and water in our communities, and we make sure to educate ourselves on those impacts. We're also held accountable for those impacts by multiple agencies, including the EPA, FSA, and NRCS, to name a few. At their best, our local county and city governments are stewards of our community. Every decision they make, every business they bring into Bainbridge and Decatur County impacts us all, for better or worse. Legislation and governing rules like the Open Meetings Act are in place to hold them accountable and keep them in line with what their community wants when making those decisions. Violating those rules are what land us in the mess we're in now. And as frustrated as I am with our local leadership, I am encouraged by our district attorney and the many lawyers who are trying to correct the mistakes that were made. Bringing new industry into our community is a good thing, and it should continue to be a priority. However, only considering the profitability of a new industry is short-sighted, and in this instance, dangerous. We also have to consider how these new industries impact the long-established industries that have sustained our community for generations. We must ask ourselves as farmers and as Decatur County residents, do we want an industry such as Safer Human Medicine likening itself to us? For me, that answer is no. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. That was great info. Now we're going to have Vina Merritt read a letter by J. Brown Mosley, Esquire.
Thank you. As she said, this is a letter from J. Brown Mosley, Esquire, to Mr. Michael Kozlerick regarding Safer Human Medicine versus Bainbridge, Decatur County Development Authority. Dear Mr. Kozlerick, having lived in Decatur County for more than 40 years, I'm quite disturbed by recent events involving our local officials and Project Liberty. Most unsettling is the deliberate effort by everyone involved to hide their negotiations from the general public. I understand that you are the bond counsel for what has been referred to as Project Liberty. I am told that your fee for this bond package will be upwards of $500,000 if the bond issue is successful. As we both know, the Development Authority has recently withdrawn their support for Project Liberty and now regrets the turmoil that it has now caused in the community. Safer Human Medicine has filed a lawsuit in federal court to enforce the prior agreement with the authority and permit Project Liberty and the bond issue to proceed. The proceedings in federal court indicate that you are now representing the authority who now desires to stop Project Liberty from coming to Decatur County. The Georgia Bar Rules of Professional Conduct provide as follows. Rule number 1.7, conflict of interest. A lawyer shall not continue to represent a client if there is a significant risk that the lawyer's own interests will materially or adversely affect the representation of the client. Your representation of the Development Authority in this litigation makes out a textbook case of conflict of interest. This kind of reckless conduct by attorneys is not permitted in Georgia courts, and a violation of Rule 1.7 can result in disbarment by the Georgia Bar. I suggest that you immediately withdraw oh my God, I can't talk. This is crazy. This is hard to do it. From representation of the Development Authority, in this case, ASAP. If you do not withdraw, I will be at your own peril. Have a good day. Signed, J. Brown Mosley.
Thank you, Vina. Now we're going to hear from Amy Meyer. And Amy is with PETA. Don't worry, they're not going to shut down the chicken restaurants and barbecue restaurants.
Yeah, I come here to discuss just one thing, and that is monkeys. And specifically, I'm going to be giving an update on all the various lawsuits going on. So I want to start by saying I'm not a lawyer, and frankly, this stuff is as confusing to me as it probably is to a lot of you. I know there are some folks with more law experience here. But I've been reassured by even the legal team who I've been in communication with that a lot of this process is very confusing, especially with the bond validation. So bear with me for folks who are familiar with the lawsuits going on, but I know there's some new faces here tonight, so I want to give a little bit of background of what the different lawsuits are, and then some updates, including one as recent as today. There's a lot of moving pieces in these. So the first lawsuit I'm going to update you all on is the case of several of our Bainbridge residents here. So this is June Faircloth, Chad Dollar, Christina Martin, and Lisa De Silva. This is a case against the City of Bainbridge, Decatur County School District, Decatur Board of Education, and Decatur County Board of Tax Assessors, and this was filed in Decatur County Superior Court. So this case is over the violations of the Georgia Open Meetings Act and the Open Records Act of these local agencies when they voted in approval of the project. Safer Human Medicine has successfully intervened in this case. And just a couple of hours ago, the state of Georgia has now filed their own motion to intervene in response to Safer Human Medicine's intervention. So the short of it is, this is a positive thing for our lawsuit, I believe. The county and Board of Tax Assessors admitted to violations of the Open Meetings Act, but the city has dug its heels in and is presenting a united front with Safer Human Medicine. So updates in this case: in November, the city moved to strike certain paragraphs of the amended complaint that alleged violations of the Open Records Act, or in the alternative, to dismiss the complaint. And then in December, the legal team representing the Bainbridge residents, they filed a response to the city's motion to dismiss the complaint. Safer Human Medicine has also filed a motion to dismiss this complaint. The city and Safer Human Medicine also moved to do what's called to stay discovery, which is further delaying the plaintiffs and the public their rights as citizens to get a complete picture of how the approval process for this monkey facility was railroaded through. So the city is refusing to provide information that it's required to provide under law, regardless of whether there's litigation or not. And part of what's being requested is information related to the expenditures of tax dollars. And everyone in this room is entitled to that information, even without litigation. The city's telling its attorneys to not tell you or others, to other Bainbridge citizens, how these tax dollars are being allocated. Okay, so the next case, the second case I'm going to discuss, is a nuisance complaint. This was filed in August, also in Decatur County Superior Court, against Safer Human Medicine and Decatur County Bainbridge Industrial Development Authority, as well as Development Authority of Bainbridge and Decatur County, and it was brought by more than a dozen Bainbridge residents. So this case cites many of the economic harms and potential odor, noise, pathogens, and dangerous waste leaks from the plant facility as reasons for the court to block its construction. The plaintiffs who own properties that border the proposed facility, run businesses that would be impacted negatively by it, or that live by the Flint River that it's likely to pollute, detailed the alleged harms in that complaint that the operation could cause. The lives and the property of these plaintiffs in particular are likely to be completely upended if the project is allowed to move forward. And I just want to make a note too that we know that it is not just the folks on that lawsuit. Other folks have said we would join this too. We understand the risks that it means to us personally. There's a lot of people in Bainbridge who feel that way. The lawsuit also includes violations of the Open Records Act. Not surprisingly, Safer Human Medicine has moved to dismiss the entire lawsuit. And like in the open meetings lawsuit, Safer Human Medicine and the development authorities are doing everything they can to delay the plaintiff's access to all the facts that are necessary to advance their claims. So the next case, the third case going on right now, is the state of Georgia versus Decatur County Bainbridge Development Authority and Safer Human Medicine, which went to the Georgia Court of Appeals. So this is the state's appeal of the court's bond validation in order to finance the project, which is based on the fact that the development authority did not provide the state with the information that was critical for the state's approval as required by law. The court has dismissed the state's approval, holding that the state was not a proper party to appeal the validation because the state is the party that executed the petition to bring the case. But in November, an update here, the state filed a formal request to the Georgia Supreme Court to review the lower court's decision. The authority has asked that the bond validation be upheld, which is completely inconsistent with what it has stated to the public. And Safer Human Medicine has also filed a response siding with the authority and against the citizens of Bainbridge and the state. We are still waiting to see if the Georgia Supreme Court will decide to take any action on the case. It's hard to say how long they could sit with it. It could be many months. So that's the update on that case. Lastly, there is a breach of contract case, which is in front of the U.S. District Court for the Middle District of Georgia Albany Division. And this was a lawsuit brought by Safer Human Medicine against Decatur County Bainbridge Development Authority. It might sound a little odd to folks who have been watching how this is all unfolding to see that Safer Human Medicine is suing the Development Authority. That's because you're paying attention. This is what I would describe as a collusive lawsuit that's intended to push the project forward without regard to the issue of the bond validation. So right now, this case has been stayed while the bond validation issue is in state court, and until that's resolved. But there's still activity happening nonetheless, because this is how lawsuits work, apparently. On New Year's Eve, the state filed a motion to intervene, and they used Safer Human Medicine's arguments against them in the Court of Appeals to establish why they have standing in this case to intervene. Just last week, Safer Human Medicine filed their response to the motion, arguing the state doesn't have the right to intervene. And as of now, the authority has not filed its own response to the motion. The citizens have also moved to intervene in this case. The Development Authority responded that it had no position with respect to the citizens' motion, and they stated that it had voted to revoke the bond resolution, but at the same time it seems they're just setting up oral argument for Safer Human Medicine. Safer Human Medicine responded in opposition to the citizens' motion to intervene in this case, again showing that it has no respect for the concerns of Bainbridge residents. Hopefully we'll see others like the county intervening for this, along with the state. So overall, things are proceeding slowly, but they're proceeding. And I know that it can be frustrating that we don't have resolutions in these cases, but like they say, the wheels of justice turn slowly. But the good news is that all this time, at least Safer Human Medicine has been stalled from starting this disastrous project. And in the end, I feel really confident that justice is going to prevail. And with all the good work of so many people in this community, I think that Bainbridge will be spared of the harms that this project is set to bring to this community. Since Safer Human Medicine first sent its business plans to the city and county officials, PETA watches closely to see what's happening in this monkey industry. And one thing that we have seen in the last year is that the monetary value of these monkeys used in experiments has been dropping significantly. And part of this, I think, is that accessing legal, healthy, actually captive-bred monkeys from Asia, where Safer Human Medicine claims it would be sourcing its monkeys from to start their own colony here, has been proving to be nearly impossible to do. This is, again, an endangered monkey as of 2022. So this, coupled with the many violations of law that serve as the basis for these 4 lawsuits, really should put an end to this ill-conceived and apparently unlawfully approved monkey farm.
Thank you, Amy. Next, we're going to hear from Dr. Lisa Jones-Engel, and she's with PETA as well.
Some of you folks in the back, and there's some empty seats up front here. If you want to come up and sit down. Can we bring the lights down in the main room? All right. Sorry about that. Do you guys want to go down and watch? Flip it back up so the folks up here can actually step down as well if they want. Dr. Miller, you want to go down? There's a chair right next to Amy. Squat right there. You got the All right. It's been a year that this monkey fight has been going on. And I find that extraordinary to still be in this, given everything that has been shown about Safer Human Medicine. So I entitled this talk, they call it science, but it's really just monkey business. So for the folks here who've met me before, I'm PETA's Senior Science Advisor for Primate Experimentation. I've been with PETA for about 6 years. Prior to that, though, I spent 30 years in the primate biomedical industry. I was working everywhere from the breeding facilities that some of these animals would be sourced from, to the labs, to the fetid monkey farms in Asia, where the monkeys are rounded up, and from which entire troops, wild troops, will be caught. They're beaten, they're stuffed into stacks, they're trucked to the farms, they're then loaded up. Eventually, in very simple, almost the crates that Vina brought up, these are a pretty close replica to the transportation crates that are used to move these thousands of animals from Southeast Asia or Mauritius to facilities here in the U.S. Yes, can I sit you dark? Sorry, there we go. I'm here. The only reason that PETA is here, that we've been involved this past year, is because the citizens heard that we we tackled a similar problem when Charles River tried to build a monkey farm in Brazoria, Texas. Now, Charles River is a big player. They are one of the biggest players in the primate industry. Charles River announced 6 months ago that they decided to not move forward with that monkey farm in Brazoria. When Safer Human Medicine picks up and leaves Bainbridge, PETA's work will be done here. And until then, my job is to make sure that the Bainbridge has all the facts to counter the outrageous lies that Safer Human Medicine has been putting forth, and also their ridiculous claims. And the way you do that is with information. So Safer Human Medicine came to town in the summer of 2023. Actually, they came through the back door. They slid in through the back door. And as most of you folks know, most of that work was done behind closed doors. And that's how this industry works. It works in secrecy. Transparency, exposure, information, public knowledge is devastating for them. And frankly, I'm all about the data, and I really like to share the data. And the citizens of Bainbridge, you all are astonishingly good at seeing through the smoke and mirrors that Safer Human Medicine has been putting up. And so this slide has got too many words on it, but a lot of my work, a lot of PETA's work has been focused on getting access to public records, providing some of the support for folks here. But really, I mean, as you've heard the folks speaking tonight before me, my job is done here. PETA's job is done here. You all have absolutely, you understand the ins and outs of this. And that is an extraordinary demonstration for this community. The one thing I really want to talk about tonight, though, is the number 30,000 monkeys is thrown around all the time. 30,000 monkeys are coming to Bainbridge. 30,000 monkeys. I want you to understand who those monkeys are, because those long-tailed macaques, when they are where they're supposed to be, in the forests of Southeast Asia, in the villages, in the temples of Southeast Asia, they are the most extraordinary animals that you can imagine. They are like us in the most important ways. They care for each other. They love their children. They have big brains. They have nimble hands. They love to swim. They can move through the treetops or the roofs in an incredibly beautiful manner. But those monkeys do not belong in cages. And once they get put into a cage, the animal that is there that's nothing like that macaque in the forest. These macaques in Southeast Asia are not an infectious disease threat to humans. In fact, they are a keystone species. The malaria transmission, the Zika transmission, these monkeys actually buffer transmission to humans because those mosquitoes will feed on the monkeys. It's a completely different story, though, the moment those animals get caught up in the importation pipeline. Their immune system starts crumbling. They are angry animals. They are thinking about one thing, 24/7. How do I get out of here? And anyone who is standing in their way is going to get hurt. And that's not because these are bad animals. Again, these are the most extraordinarily beautiful, generous, and kind monkeys when you leave them alone. Safer Human Medicine, the primate industry, has no intention of leaving these animals alone. And just a little bit about them, an adult female, she's about the size of a really good sized house cat. An adult male, he's about the size of a Cocker Spaniel with 2.5-inch canines. And prehensile, nimble fingers and toes, and strength that you cannot imagine in these animals. Relationships are everything for macaques. To be a macaque, you have to be in your macaque community. And up until about 10 or 15 years ago, they used to be incredibly numerous in Southeast Asia. They were everywhere because they really understood how to live with us. Macaques can read us in a way that no other animal out there can. But part of their success at being around us actually led to their downfall, because people would see so many and they're like, oh, nobody cares about these animals. And I've even heard the industry say it, they're pests, they're a nuisance. No, they're not. They're primates, they're like us, they were successful. but they were the right monkey in the wrong place, and the industry basically said, no one's paying attention, I'm going to go get some monkeys. Now, that has all come crashing down on their head, because in 2022, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, following an assessment by primate scientists, declared these an endangered species. Last week, CITES, the Convention on the International Trade of Endangered Species, actually announced that the CITES Secretariat has suggested there be a suspension of trade of long-tailed macaques from Cambodia because of the illegal laundering of monkeys. Earlier this week, PETA and 35 other primate scientists from around the globe submitted petitions to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife to add these monkeys to the endangered species list. These 3 steps have been taken to, 1, to protect the animals, and to 2, show this industry that the era of the monkey model, of using monkeys willy-nilly, is over, because as these 3 things hit, the ability to actually extract these animals, to send them around the world, to pull blood samples out of them and send them around the world, will absolutely be curtailed. And that means Safer Human Medicine and Charles River and Innovative and LabCorp and Alpha Genesis, their monkey business will come to a crashing halt. So I painted a picture of how glorious macaques are out in the wild, but this is actually what macaques look like here. Before they even get into these crates, many of them are actually captured directly from the wild. These animals live in large troops of 40 animals. At night, they come back to their sleeping trees. And they come there because they come for comfort, they come for protection. What the trappers have realized is that you go there, you find the sleeping tree, you cut all the other trees around it, you put nets down, you start firing guns in the air, the monkeys all come running down, and you grab them, you beat them, macaques will fight to the death to protect their infants, to protect each other, but they do not stand a chance. And in the end, this is what it looks like. This is, they're grabbed, the ones that are alive, they're stuffed in bags, they're brought to the monkey farms. This is how these monkeys will get here into Bainbridge. They will be swept up in this multi-billion-dollar industry that is wallowing in disease and violations of the national and international laws, and then trafficking and smuggling of this endangered species of primate. And I want to really point this out, that just because you dress it up in a white coat and the occasional personal protective equipment, that does not change the reality that this industry is neck deep in the wildlife trade. And with that comes the subsequent unintentional contact of the citizens who did not bargain for this. This is the wildlife trade that Safer Human Medicine and your city and development authority officials want to bring to Bainbridge. Now, Safer Human Medicine only exists on paper and in the imaginations of Safer Human Medicine's leadership. They have no infrastructure. The principal players, leadership, has been retired employees of Charles River or Vigo or Innovative or whatever name that company is going by now. They've been out of the game for a few years. And frankly, the only monkeys that they stand a chance of getting their hands on are the ones at the bottom of the barrel. Now, they've indicated that they plan to get their monkeys from Vietnam. Vietnam's monkey trade is a seething pit of monkey laundering, of deception, of bribery, of disease, and of death. And Vietnam right now is under special scrutiny by CITES, the trade authority, the International Trade Authority. So Cambodia's door is going to be shut. Vietnam's door is going to be shut. Every door is shutting in the face of Safer Human Medicine and of this industry. And yet, they try to persist. I mentioned how Vietnam is this pit of seething disease and horribleness. I want to talk about specifically the monkeys that are coming into here, directly into the U.S. So the graph up here was data that we had just received from the Centers for Disease Control, and they provided this information to us. You don't even have to see the numbers, you don't even have to see what it says, you just need to see how that line is going up. Well, that line going up is the number of animals who are coming into this country, into CDC quarantine, who are infected with deadly pathogens. And so you can see that the morbidity, the injuries, and the mortality, the death, has been steadily going up for the last 4 years. Look at the date on this, July 24th, 2023. This was right around the time that Safer Human Medicine slid into the back door here in Bainbridge. This was, again, from the CDC, and this was a notice to all the state public health veterinarians around the country. And what it said was that there had been a tremendous surge of monkey shipments coming in with animals infected with tuberculosis. And not your regular run-of-the-mill TB. I mean, as Dr. Miller pointed out, tuberculosis, we all know that pathogen. It's dangerous. It can be transmitted between people. It can be transmitted between monkeys and people. These animals coming in, and they were coming in from Vietnam, were actually carrying a strain of tuberculosis that we had never seen before in this country. In fact, 4 different strains came in between 2022 and 2023 of tuberculosis. Now, TB can also be transmitted to cattle. And so I have heard Safer Human Medicine. I've read Safer Human Medicine's claims. All the animals coming in will be clean, they'll be healthy, they'll go through CDC quarantine, everything will be hunky-dory. Well, that's just an outright lie. That is simply not the case whatsoever. The data are very clear. These animals are coming in, they're imported infected. Sometimes the tests to detect it are not able to show it, and they are leaving quarantine still infected with tuberculosis. That's TB. In 2022, and I'm sure they're coming in 2023 and 2024, the data are just not out yet, monkeys arrive infected with what's called a Tier 1 select agent. And this is a much bigger word. It's Burkholderia pseudomallei. Burkholderia pseudomallei is a bacteria that can actually exist in the soil and the water in Southeast Asia. And it can exist in the soil and the water right here in Georgia, because it's already actually been found in Louisiana. The monkeys shed this bacteria in their urine, their feces, their saliva, their blood. People can get infected through inhaling the basically kind of the aerosolized bacteria, through cuts in their skin, through scratches, through breaks in their skins. Its reason is a Tier 1 select agent, meaning it's considered at the level of a bioterrorism weapon, is because the case fatality rate, the likelihood that you will die if you get infected without treatment, is astonishingly high for this pathogen. And we have monkeys coming in infected with this, entering and exiting CDC quarantine, still infected with this pathogen, going out to other facilities and shedding it in all the bodily fluids. And again, this one can take up residence in the soil and in the water. And the data on this one is in 2022. Safer Human Medicine would have known about this, and this is another example of what they didn't bother to mention to anyone. Dr. Miller mentioned tuberculosis. He mentioned malaria. These are the other pathogens that have consistently come in with monkeys as part of this trade. Ebola-like viruses, Yersinia, Shigella, Campylobacter, simian retroviruses, Yersinia, the type of pathogens that every single one of these can be transmitted between monkeys and humans, and they can go human to human. Some of these can go into cattle, some of these can go into other domestic animals. These animals, these are the pathogens that were detected before and after quarantine in what are supposed to be screened, disease-free, healthy monkeys. There is no such thing as a disease-free, healthy monkey in this trade. They simply do not exist. So, you've got endangered monkeys, you've got diseased monkeys, you've got, as Amy pointed out, the price per monkey is actually now starting to go down. And what Amy didn't necessarily add to that was that one of the other reasons is because the scientists are basically saying, I don't want to use monkeys anymore. I have better methods than I'm using monkeys. And this chart actually shows that between 2024 and 2024, 15% fewer monkeys were imported into the U.S. Between 2024 and 2022, 30% fewer monkeys. Since 2021, 50% fewer monkeys have been imported into the U.S. And I guarantee you it's not because the industry wouldn't want to do that. One, they're not finding as many monkeys. Two, I'll take a little bit of credit with that with PETA. We have made it more difficult. I mean, we've been all up in their business, and we make it difficult for them to fly in monkeys. We make it difficult for them in every way we possibly can. But it's the scientists. That's a beautiful given. It's the scientists themselves who are saying, we are moving on to other ways of doing science. So this little device that's up there, it's about the size of a smartphone, and it's known as a human on a chip. It has 4 different organs that are all linked together to mimic the human body. This is 21st century science. This is real science. This is the science that gets us the treatments faster, cheaper, more efficiently, and much more safely. Let's go back to the monkey business. Again, safer human medicine only exists on paper. I want to talk about a facility that actually does exist. It's got the bars, it's got the brick, it's got the chicken wire, it's got the people. And it is an absolute mess. And this is what safer human medicine would ultimately drop if they were allowed to in Bainbridge. And this is the Alpha Genesis facility in South Carolina. It's a few hours north of here. Alpha Genesis is a much, much smaller facility than what Safer Human Medicine is proposing. Only about 6,000 monkeys, plus or minus, in Alpha Genesis. But it is a very sobering glimpse into the future of scale that up. So I'm going to just talk about a few things, and then imagine if there were 30,000 monkeys sitting here. I imagine some of you have actually heard about the escape. So monkeys escape from facilities all the time. I know Safer Human Medicine said, don't worry, monkeys won't escape. No. Again, this is a primate. They're in a cage. Every single moment is focused on getting out of that cage. And so in November, Alpha Genesis brought in about 50 monkeys from the Morgan Island, a place close by to them. And they put these monkeys in a cage. And then whether it was human error, somebody just wasn't paying attention, or whether the fact that these were actually basically wild monkeys from Morgan Island, they got out. 43 of them got out of the 50. People are asking, well, why didn't everyone leave? And this is because macaques are like they're the Marines of monkeys. They don't leave anyone behind. The 43 who got out, they would have known those 7 animals that were still in that cage. That would have been their mothers, their aunties, their fathers. And so they hung around the Alpha Genesis facility for a while. But even then, it took that facility months to try to recapture these animals. And actually, there's an article that just came out very recently. Alpha Genesis said, yeah, we got them all. This was 2 months later. That's probably not true that they got them all. I'm going to be polite about that. We already knew that one of them got hit and killed out on the road. We know that in Yamasee, because they've had escapes so often, that there are just free-ranging monkeys in that area. 2 weeks after these 43 monkeys got out, the facility, again, and they didn't. They had to tell everyone that when the monkeys got out, but they didn't tell everyone that actually, whether their heater malfunctioned and the animals died from carbon monoxide poisoning, or whether the heater malfunctioned and the animals cooked to death. But then 2 weeks later, 21 more of their macaques died. I want to read this little bit that's up here right now. This was a story that was just printed today in the Post and Courier out of Beaufort County. And this is the journalists there. Actually, they spoke to a whistleblower that was in that AGI facility. Because the one thing that we haven't really touched on is, what does it mean to actually be responsible for taking care of the monkey in one of these facilities? I began my career working in the laboratories, working with chimps, working with macaques. It was my job to clean the cages, to feed them, to make them their treats. At the end of the day, I always got to turn off the lights and go home. But you knew you left them there. You knew that you left in that cage, in that dark room where there's no wind coming through, there's no light coming through. You know that you left an animal there who simply knows who you are, who understands what it means to be kept in captivity. That breaks you. No one can do that for long. So this is what was written about what the whistleblower in the Alpha Genesis facility experienced. And they said, the witnesses said a crew was warned that a group of monkeys had been exposed to carbon monoxide and needed treatment. 2 veterinarians and other technicians were at the scene until the early morning, according to the worker. Some of the monkeys died quickly, but others were still breathing and lying unresponsive on their sides, according to the witness. The worker said in the complaint that the sick monkeys were tended by staff but needed more intensive care from the veterinarians. Workers were emotional and frustrated. They tried to minister to these sick monkeys because they had limited experience and training, the witness said. The technical staff assessed the conditions of the sickened monkeys, which had purple gums, rapid heart rates, hypothermia, diarrhea, the worker said. Some of the monkeys started having seizures, they said. You're a technician, you're someone you're just supposed to be cleaning the cages or feeding the animals, and you were faced with these animals seizing there. You were faced with an animal dying right in front of you, and you don't have the ability to help, the training to help. No, again, you don't come back from that. There's a reason why in this industry, they simply cannot fill these jobs. It's the cost to your soul is so much greater than anything that you could ever receive in a paycheck. So, they call it science, but it really is just monkey business. So with that, I'm going to ask the other speakers to come back up on the stage and put the lights back on, and we'll start taking any questions that you all may have.
Okay, let's try to keep our questions brief to 3 minutes if we can do that. We'll have an opportunity after everybody gets their questions answered to possibly answer more questions. Who has the first question?
Anybody know Donald Trump?
What's the second question?
I asked the question, does anybody know Donald Trump?
Yes.
Beside me?
Yes.
What do y'all think he would say? I heard him say about 2 hours ago, I heard him say my 2 favorite words are common sense. That's the answer to the question.
Amen.
I know somebody knows Donald Trump.
Dr. Lisa, what percentage of the tests that's done on monkeys prove to be good for humans? Is there a percentage on that?
Good for humans? Good for humans?
Yes. Okay.
I'm trying to understand what you mean by. I can tell you that 90 to 95% of the tests that have been, or drugs and treatments that have been done in primates and then gone on to human clinical trials have failed. There were 6 HIV vaccines were developed in monkeys. All of them were shown to be safe and effective. They kept the monkeys from getting HIV. All of those vaccines went into large-scale human clinical trials with thousands of humans. Every single one of those vaccines failed in humans. One of them actually increased the risk that humans could develop HIV. It has been proven again and again, what works in a monkey does not translate or replicate in humans. Dr. Lisa, I have a question for you as well. Didn't the FDA stop requiring animal testing in 2022, but there's still animal?
My question is not about the monkeys and all that. My question is why the city of Bainbridge did not require a development regional impact study, which was supposed to have been done before any of this was ever voted on. It was supposed to have been done by the city of Bainbridge. I got stuff here if anybody wants to read it.
Really good question, and for folks who have not asked your officials yet, I encourage you to ask them. One way you could do that, there's back in the back where June is, there are some postcards, and you can send postcards to your city council representatives, and they should be hearing from you. I know a lot of you have already spoken with them, but keep asking these really good questions.
The monkey waste that comes from the monkey that goes to the water to be treated at, they say, the water treatment center. Even though it is treated, is it 100%? Doesn't it still say, I've heard that it cannot be completely treated, and then it goes into the other water, which is going to end up into our creeks and rivers and the Flint River, which is going to alternate going down through Lake Seminole and Apalachicola. And who likes oysters? It will ruin it all. And my brother just had a 6-acre pond, and I said, do you realize that you may not even be able to fish your fish out of your pond? And he was all upset. But that's going to affect the waters. But is it 100% that it will clear it, or it does not?
No way. You cannot run all of their disease and urine into a water system. You have to wash out those buildings, and it will go on the drain. I've got sense enough to know that.
That is common sense. And I think, I know Sacred Land Medicine has...
Yes, I got one quick question. Is the leadership present that voted for this?
For insects.
I went out to Louisiana, when we first started this, they said they had one in Louisiana that shipped 200 monkeys to Atlanta. I went to Louisiana. I spent half of my life in Louisiana. I went out to eat, and if you were going to drink a Coca-Cola, you better not put ice in it. You better drink it hot, because it had the rankest taste you ever saw. And they had built a multi-billion-dollar treatment plant. And they had found out that the water was contaminating.
Exactly. Going back to, there was a question about the wastewater treatment. So in Alice, Texas, there are a couple of big monkey farms. And those farms are absolutely sideways because they violated the Clean Water Act, because they were not able to maintain the waste in their sewage ponds. And they were actually trucking out every day, container trucks filled with monkey waste to another facility. It's the Indigo facility that Harkness was overseeing. They found themselves, they were charged with violations of the Clean Water Act because they were not containing the waste from the beagles. You can't, when you have that many animals in a place, in a concrete place like that, and they're all so compacted in, you got to do something with the waste, and you generally cannot keep up with it.
This is not a question, but we live in the closest house in Decatur County on the west side to the facility. I think the rentals are from their back door to the property, I believe is 300 feet.
To the property is 100 feet.
In the 100-foot buffer.
My property is 100 foot from their line. The house will be 300 foot from my
300
back door.
feet. Well, from our driveway to the property is about 400 to 450 yards. We had an appraiser last February came out. I had him appraise the property. Once he got through appraising it, a couple of weeks later, he said, "You want to bring it back or you want me to mail it?" And I said, "No, bring it back." So he brought it back, and we stood out in the front yard, and I pointed across the road, and I said, this is where they're gonna put the facility. What's that gonna cost me? And he said, well, obviously, I have never had to deal with monkeys, but I've had to deal with chicken houses, hog parlors, feedlots for cows, and things like that. And he said, my best guess, and he's done this 30 or 40 years, he said, if everything goes perfect and nothing happens, it's going to cost you $150,000. If something goes bad, they get out, this other problem, or anything like that, he said, all bets are off, it may be worth nothing.
Dr. Lisa, there was about 6 or 8 of us, I can't say the privilege, we had the occasion to meet 2 of the principals that came to town with SHM and try to sell us a bill of health on this thing. And we met at the Chamber of Commerce. We spent 2 hours with them. We asked them some real good questions. We didn't get many answers. They didn't have a plan, emergency plan. They had nothing to show us what would be built here. So we got to the point to ask them, how would it be funded? They said, we'll fund it. We said, okay, where are you getting this funding from? Oh, we can't tell you that. I said, do you think I want you coming to my community, spending money, and you can't tell me where the funding is coming from? He says, we can't do that. And then the second thing, David mentioned about appraisal. I had my property appraised. I'm about a mile from David, 1.2 miles from the proposed monkey farm. And so I got an appraisal about 3 months ago. And when the appraiser finished it, he called me and says, do you want me to bring it over, or do you want it? And I told him, just like David, just bring it over. So we were discussing, and this gentleman had been in the appraisal and the land management industry for 30 years, well respected. And so I asked him, I says, I have 80 acres there, and I says, what would you do with this property, being this close to the monkey farm? He said, I'd sell it. And I said, well, if I don't sell it, what do you think it'll cost me? And he told me basically like David just said. He said, David, if everything goes right, it could cost you $200,000. And he said, if it goes wrong, you could add another 100 or so to that. So, but it's not going to only affect our property value close to there. It's going to affect everybody's property value to a certain degree. And I'd like you to answer the question, is that natural for them to not tell you where the money's coming from?
I think you have a right to know where the money's coming from. So we did some of the digging on the paperwork for that. And it seems like a company called Curie Bio is kind of backing some of this. And so we did a little bit more digging. And it seems that the folks who are interested in this are some of the, and this again for a few years ago, were some of the small biotech companies who were they were annoyed that they weren't getting the good monkeys. They were annoyed that, they would have to stand in line. This was, kind of during the height of the COVID pandemic when a lot of monkeys were being ground up and used. And so I think they approached the SMH guys and said, hey, get me some monkeys. We want our own personal supply of monkeys. We don't want to have to be beholden to some of the other big groups. See if you can get that. So our next Save for Human Medicine said, sure, we've been doing this for years, we've got connections, yada, yada, yada. But that, it is insanely expensive to run a facility like this. And it is a facility that at any moment could absolutely just go belly up, whether from a mass monkey escape, an infectious disease outbreak that would completely wipe out the colony, changes in international or national laws. It's an incredibly volatile environment. Look at Charles, I mentioned Charles River earlier, the biggest player in this industry. Their stock price just hit a 52-week low earlier this week. The bottom is falling out of the monkey business. And so I wonder what Zach Weinberg, because he's the one who signed the paperwork for Curie Bio, is thinking about his decision.
Most of the questions have been about monkeys and how monkeys affect people. I came here to find out.
It's on.
I came here to find out how do we stop the monkey farm is what I came to find out. No, I don't know anything about monkeys. I don't want to know. I want to know who we can contact to get this stopped. That is the only question that's important to me in this community. It's got to be stopped. We have not talked about that one thing, but we want it stopped. Who can answer that question? Pete, can y'all answer the question?
I can give a little input on what I've seen from last year, January, February, when we were jam-packing the local meetings. That made such an impact on the officials. I don't think that people realize the value that we have. Our voices really actually matter. It's that pressure. We got to keep putting pressure on, and we do have to go above, not just local government. We got to go state, federal, whatever it takes. It's going to take us showing up like this and not shutting up. That's number one.
And vote them out.
And vote. Good God Almighty. Vote. Actually vote. I wish people knew that it actually mattered. Too many people, especially in the black community, don't think that voting matters. Voting is essential. And we have to do it. And we need people to run against these folks. So,
And prayer change things.
The information you just gave is not correct. The information you just gave out is incorrect.
go ahead. You got it right.
People who voted this thing in are still for it. They told me out of their own mouth at the church.
I believe that. I believe that.
You know what I said, what things they had told me that were wrong, and the man came to me in my face at church and said, "Get out of my face. Don't talk to me like this." I said, "I'm not moving."
I believe you.
I said, "You have incorrect information." He said, "You are wrong. I have the correct information." He has the information he was given by those people who sold it to the development party. He does not have the truth. He will not believe the truth. So like you said, we didn't have any effect on these people because they don't come to these meetings. They don't know we're meeting and they don't know what we feel. I mean, we need to find who can stop this thing.
And I'm glad you said that. First of all, you're totally right. You were totally right. And I have to say this here. We did invite the officials. And only two shots. I got to give these guys a shout out because out of all the people that we invited, this place would have been packed with them. But these are the only ones that showed up, and I appreciate that. But go ahead.
The development authority is responsible for this. They
Oh yeah,
never
oh
show
yeah,
up.
oh yeah.
These people didn't do it. The development authority did it. They misled everybody.
Yep, that's the root to it all.
They misled everybody, and they got it done.
We have another question back here.
I don't know if maybe one of y'all can answer a question. My wife and I met with one of the leaders in the development authority. It's probably been a year ago. We had several questions, and he was supposed to get back with us. We have yet to hear. But one of the questions that concerns me, and I don't care how good of stewards you are with animals, you're going to have a death loss. What are they going to do with the dead animals? How are they going to dispose of them?
Probably they'll have an incinerator.
So in some of these facilities, they have incinerators. Some facilities actually use chemical dissolving of the animals, that's a scary one. So there will be a lot of death. There absolutely is. It happens in these facilities. You know, you put a bunch of monkeys in a cage, and again, they're angry at us. They're angry at each other. You know, there's a lot of fighting. Infants will be torn apart by the males in the group. So the mortality, the death rate is very high, but there's no happy ending for a monkey in this. They don't get to go back to Southeast Asia, or they don't get to go back and run around. It's a red biohazard bag, and whether or not that bag goes in an incinerator or in a vat of chemicals that dissolve it, that's how it ends.
I have a question. I have a question for the county. I have a question. I want to know if there is a federal case that is going on, and I want to know if the county is going to agree to intervene in that case to stop this.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say I appreciate everyone being. I can't believe that I'm going against the poets and monkeys. I know I'm talking a hostile environment here. Well, the gentleman back here said, "You must be a Democrat." Is there anyone here? Is there anyone in this room that has never made a mistake? If you will, please stand up. I know two you made. Are we friends?
We working on it. We getting it.
All right, here's a good example. If the people who voted for this, including me, have been privy to the information that we have here tonight, no, we wouldn't have voted for it.
Amen.
Every person that called me with a problem, first thing out of my mouth is, I'm a taxpayer. Every person, not one. The biggest thing that I've been instructed to do since I've been here is cut taxes. This facility, we were told, in good confidence, that it would cut the taxes for our citizens more than half. Now, with the people who told me yes, yes sir.
Let him finish. I got an island.
All right. So we made, and I've said early on, we made a mistake. Did I not?
You did. Yes.
I said this commission meeting I went out to. I'm gonna share it with y'all tonight. Johnny Reynolds and Penny, and David Barber, and that's Donna. They have handled themselves tremendously well on this episode. Now, one time have they shown anger. Now, one time have they shown animosity toward any of us. They have been open and honest, but cordial. And my hats are off to you too. Now, Mina, I consider a friend. The commission meeting one night, this is how things can get misconstrued so bad. I tapped her on the shoulder. I want to talk to you a minute. She had posted something on Facebook that I didn't agree with. I cordially told her, I said, listen, I don't agree with what you had to say. The person you talk bad about is a friend of mine, and I know his heart. His heart is in this county. All right? She goes home and posts on Facebook that Commissioner Stevens called me out tonight, and this is what he had to say. And I said back to her. I said, I asked to speak to you privately because of the friendship and the respect I had for you. I didn't want to call you out in public. All right? Did I not?
You said that.
Now, the people who responded to her message, one of them went for and said, you were nicer to him than I would. I called him SOB. Well, he didn't to my face. Well, I don't see the scars and scratches of extents in me. With all this being said, Decatur County voted early on to rescind it. When I first heard about that the vote we had taken was not valid because the open meetings, you know, what do you want to call it? I said, the person showed it, I said, this is a godsend. This is our way. And I give God the credit there.
Yes.
All right. Now, I know the animosity toward me. I know the animosity toward other elected officials. I can only speak for me, but I know the other commissioners. They have the heart of Decatur County in this. Your government. And we were, I'm not going to say misled, we were informed that this would be fantastic for the county.
Yeah.
That's what we were, and the way it presented to us, okay. Again, I've been instructed when I got here, cut taxes. Now let me tell you this. When I came on board here 10 years ago, this county was, we had about $1 million to make payroll. This county budget was upside down. And tell you today, Decatur County is in better financial shape as it's ever been. And we have cut millage rate every year. You don't do that by abusing the system.
That don't mean you cut tax rates, so.
That's right.
We cut millage rate. That's how you set the taxes.
Your property value goes up, so your taxes go up.
You're right. Do we have any control over that?
So you had to cut
Nope.
taxes.
Not one penny. We don't have any control over that.
Well, somebody has.
Yeah, somebody has.
Who is it?
We do.
Nobody
We do.
does.
That's right.
You and I do.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
How y'all doing today? My name is Brandon McIntyre, and I actually want to say something to everyone in this room, and actually speaking for this guy right here. How we are going to solve the problem. That's what I want to know. That's what you want to know. Well, my thing is we hired them to select office. We voted for everyone that's on that board to actually come in to probably see what's best for our community. Am I correct? But see, the thing about it is that they make decisions without us knowing. They make decisions and make tax cuts, supposedly, to actually try to fit our community, but it doesn't fit our community or our budgets. Right. But see, the issue is this right here, brother. We hire people that's not part of the Constitution. Yes, sir. We hire people that's not a part of the Constitution. What I mean, they may believe in the Constitution, but they don't uphold the Constitution. Okay? So my thing is, they violated our rights, period, point blank. All right? They violated our 5th and our 14th Amendment right. All right? They also violated our Health and Safety Act for general safety and welfare causes. No, they also violated the community rights versus corporate interests, because we all have an interest within our community. That was our reason for actually hiring them to support our community. So if they're not supporting our community, they're not doing what's best for our community, what we need to do is not just fire them, we need to usher them off their duties. Okay? And everyone in this room, I'm pretty sure, is a registered voter. Okay? And they also believe in the Constitution. And they're sworn into the Constitution, because my people, your people, died to learn what? The Constitution. All right? So I heard a brother back here said something about Democrat and Republican. This brother right here, I'm going to tell you something. I never went to school to be a Democrat. I never went to school to be a Republican. But I went to school to learn what? The Constitution. So once we start hiring people that actually stand for the Constitution and start believing in the Constitution, that will stand up and die behind the Constitution, we'll have better communities across America. All right?
I also know that I'm in probably a hostile environment, but I am the county attorney, and unlike other boards who have said no with their lips but continue to say yes with their eyes and with their actions, the Board of County Commissioners, who some of which got their pictures on a poster out here, the moment they realized that they had participated in something in violation of the law. Now, you can question why they made the decision they made at the time to put their name, their signatures on a piece of paper. That's a right question to ask. But the moment that they realized that they participated with something that was against the law, they have 100% in every turn that they can make. They have stood firm and not. There was some talk. The wonderful person that gave the litigation report was outstanding. She suggested sometimes in her report that there were people that were maybe not really in opposition to what they say they're in opposition of. We could have joined that group. The county commissioners could have taken that approach, but we haven't. The question that I wanted to answer is, you asked about the intervention. Every lawyer has different reasons for doing different things. I believe, as far as Decatur County is concerned, my client, Decatur County, that our most effective place to be is where we chose to be when we realized that we violated the Open Meetings Act. We hold up our hand like a big boy. We say that what we agreed to, we reject it. We voted that in everything that we did at that meeting was not binding on us. That's what we believe. And we believe that the place that gives us the best opportunity to protect the citizens of Decatur County is in the open meetings litigation, the one that we're in. We don't necessarily believe that intervening in a federal court action somewhere else is the right thing to do. We actually believe we might be jumping in, if we did that, into a forum that might not be so good for us. So I'm not fussing at you. I'm just telling you we have a valid reason as to why we are not trying to intervene, because we think we're in the right place that will ultimately say what the county did in those agreements is not binding on the county. So we think we're in the right place, and if it turns out that we're in the wrong place, well, put it on me. Don't put it on those commissioners, because I've made that decision. And I want to say one other thing, and I know that I so appreciate, and I think they know it. I think the people that are fighting for y'all know that the county and the county's lawyers have been supportive. I think that you know that. And I've got this fragile mind, so I don't even remember the last thing that I was going to say. But we think that we're in the right place, and I am actually, I don't like the egg on my face. You know, I've never been the person that like gives the public notice, and I don't, or lets the public know that we're having a meeting. We don't have meetings without doing the proper notice. We knew that we were being asked to go to the college to consider safer human medicine matters. We didn't call that meeting. And I mistakenly assumed that that meeting had been noticed by whoever called it. And that was a terrible assumption on my part. It was terrible.
Breaking the law. When you sign a contracts without us having any knowledge that you were doing it.
Right. Absolutely, that's what I'm saying.
And I'm saying you're not worthy of your job. And neither are they.
That's right.
Hey, excuse me, got a question. Got a question.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, for the people who came,
We can't hear.
for the people who came, like man up front, the only thing I'm asking is somebody said that they met one of them at church and he seemed like he was steadfast to what the decision was. Okay, like the ones who came and said, hey, we made a mistake. Now I understand what you're saying, but you can't get into the court thing or whatever, you don't want to get it. But I think it would help if the rest of the ones who did vote would come to this, not to get yelled at by everybody, but to do like my man said up there, we made a mistake. Stand behind it, say we can't get in it, but don't sit and look like they still dug in like a tick by their decision. And that's what it seems like they're happening. Nobody else is coming in here and saying we done made a mistake, but my man up there. So how do we know they done? We don't know if they feel like that. And ain't nobody came and said they feel like that. So I'm not going to assume they feel like that if they can't come here and tell us that. And once they do that, I think that it's not going to change the situation. But it will take some of that hostility out of it that I think you may have just dissolved some of it from you by showing up.
Fellow commissioners are here with me.
All right, so, but the rest of them, I think everybody on that board need to show up, say we sorry, we made a mistake, and then they can't get in it, but at least let us know that, and so we won't think they still with it.
I know this is appropriate, but that county building where we have a meeting was packed to the brim. Amina was there.
Yeah.
Every county commissioner stood up and said, we made a mistake.
Yeah, they did.
Every one of them stood up and said.
I appreciate all the officials coming tonight and having accountability of their actions. But my thing is, for this question for this brother right here, right? You're the attorney, am I correct? That's the accountability that I like, right? But my thing, so how much money, if this would have went through, just so say, how much money would it have bought the Bainbridge? And where would the money go?
I have no idea because the county is not the entity that recruits industry. So we did not vet that industry at all.
Okay.
We didn't vet cars when it came. The county did. We didn't vet Miller Hydro that used to be here when it came. That's not our role. So how much money it would bring? There were a lot of glowing projections, and I think that we heard from Safer Human Medicine, and thanks to some of these fine folks that investigated it, those glowing projections, there's probably not going to be a whole lot of money coming. But I don't know. The city.
Any other questions? I want to know who is here that knows the Flint River Keepers and has heard what they've got to say that it would do to this area. Somebody let me know, because I think it would be not just bad for about a third of Georgia, but a lot of Florida. And why are they not involved?
Downstream.
Sandra, I can answer that question. Gordon Rogers and the lady who is now the new riverkeeper at Apalachicola are actually meeting this Sunday for part of the documentary that's being filmed here to discuss exactly what's going on there. Cameron, who is the new riverkeeper there, is a marine biologist, and they are very concerned. So they're watching everything that's going on up here and in fear, because they're already in a tri-state war to protect the oyster beds now, and they certainly don't want this. They would be here tonight, but they had other schedules that were not going to allow it. But they are addressing it.
Anybody else?
I have an answer for the 740. We all make mistakes.
Ever since this started, we started out with a big crowd on Tuesday praying, okay? And as a leader in the body of Christ, we have to understand, not saying that nobody is not praying, prayer changes everything. It's our first response, but not our last resort. I don't want to start preaching here, but we have to pray. And if you can't show up at the gazebo, pray. If you can fast, because the Bible says this, only some things can be broken by fasting and praying. If you can pray with us, if you're not there, if you can fast with us from 6 to 12, if you're on medication, God knows you're trying. So if we can be in agreement with that on Tuesday, see, we're standing that it's not going to come here. We don't want it here. So if y'all can join in, if you don't come, you at home, pray with us, because we be there every afternoon on Tuesday at 5:30. Thank you. We're at the gazebo. We're at the gazebo in the park, Willis Park. Let me tell you, God ain't never stopped working. He won't ever stop.
I don't need no mic. I don't need a mic. I got whatever in my Bible. Okay. But what I'm going to say, please don't stop public. Why are we visiting these places and having all this deception coming here? You know, my favorite thing is already left school. I've always been a kid, bubble gum, everything they had. Now they gone. Now the game thing gone over there by First Boundary. It's gone. Now everything about to be gone. Now I'm 65 and I want to be here a little bit longer. And I ain't got time to run no mailbox and run in the house. All right,
Okay. We're going to prepare to close. First off, I want to thank everybody for coming out. We want to thank everybody for coming out. This means so much. This means y'all are interested in what's going on. Everybody who's here right now is supposed to be here. So if y'all invited people and they didn't show up, it's all good. We learned what we learned. That's what we needed. And I want to remind everyone in the back, there are petitions that you can sign. There's brochures. What else we got? A whole bunch of information packets. So you can just further your education on this. And thank you all for coming. And I think you want to end with a prayer. There you go. Yes. Let's end with a prayer.
I'll do one more. I appreciate you being here. Yes. Thank you. We're friends, and I respect you.
Thank you.
All right. With that being said, let's do pray, y'all.
Okay.
Dear Lord, thank you for being here with us tonight. God, we thank you for the questions, the answers, Lord, the education that you have brought forth. And God, we know that you're the beginning and the ending of everything. And God, we do know that the people are here that loves this community, God, and we love you. And God, we do give you the honor, the prayers, and everything, God, that we just continue to move forward, Lord, and we're standing on faith that this will dissolve. And people will be friends in this community and continue to show the love and compassion that we've always had, that I have known in my entire life in Bainbridge, Georgia. With that, Lord, we do thank you. We pray that everyone will go home safe, Lord, and that we will continue to pray in Jesus' holy name. Amen. Amen. Amen.